I still remember that sinking feeling when I checked my bank balance 2 weeks before starting college. $8,500. 4 years of sacrifice. 4 years of working every weekend while my friends hung out. All gone. My own mother had cleared my account without a word. I thought I knew what betrayal felt like, but nothing prepared me for what came next. Just when I thought I had rebuilt my life, she had the audacity to send me a bill for my stepsister's college dorm. Before I tell you how my own mother sabotaged my future, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like button if you have ever felt betrayed by family. This story gets wild, so buckle up. Looking back now at 24, I can barely recognize the naive 18-year-old girl I used to be. The one who believed that working hard and saving every penny would guarantee her dreams. The one who trusted that her mother would support her ambitions even if her stepfather made it clear I was not his responsibility. When my mom Sarah married Robert, I was 12 years old. It felt like gaining a new family, especially when Emma came into the picture. She was 2 years younger than me, with bright blonde hair and an infectious laugh that could charm anyone. At first, I was excited to have a sister. I imagined us sharing clothes, gossiping about boys, and supporting each other through high school. But reality set in quickly. Robert made his position crystal clear during one of our first family dinners. When the topic of my future education came up, he leaned back in his chair and declared, "She is not my responsibility." Those words cut deeper than any physical blow could have. My mother just nodded silently, avoiding my eyes. That night, lying in bed, I made a decision that would shape the next 4 years of my life. If I wanted to go to college, I would have to pay for it myself. The next week, I walked into every business on Main Street until I found someone willing to hire a 14-year-old for weekend work. My first job was at Sunny Scoops, the local ice cream shop downtown. Mrs. Patterson, the owner, took pity on me when I explained my situation. She started me at minimum wage, scooping ice cream and cleaning tables every Saturday and Sunday. The work was exhausting, especially during summer, when lines stretched out the door, but I loved earning my own money. As I got older, I added more jobs to my roster. I walked dogs for busy neighbors every morning before school. I babysat for 3 different families on weekday evenings. During my junior and senior year, I worked retail at the department store in the mall, folding clothes and dealing with difficult customers. Every dollar I earned went into my savings account at First National Bank. My mother had to be a joint holder since I was a minor, but I never thought twice about it. This was my money earned through my sweat and sacrifice. While my classmates went to movies and bought new clothes, I ate packed sandwiches and wore the same 3 outfits to school. The contrast with Emma became more obvious as we grew up. While I counted every penny she received the latest iPhone for her 15th birthday. While I wore hand-me-down jeans with holes, she got shopping trips to the outlet mall. When I asked for $20 for required textbooks, I had to justify why I could not find them used. Emma never had to ask twice for anything. My mother always had excuses ready. Emma is younger, she needs more attention. Emma is going through a difficult phase. Emma has different needs than you do. I learned to stop asking questions and focus on my goals instead. By senior year, I had saved $8,500. It was not enough for 4 years at State University, but it would cover my first-year tuition with some financial aid. I had applied for every scholarship I could find, written essays about overcoming adversity, and maintained a 3.8 GPA while working 20 hours a week. State University had accepted me into their business program. I planned to study finance, get internships during summer breaks, and build a career that would give me the security I had never felt at home. Everything seemed to be falling into place. 2 weeks before orientation, I walked into First National Bank to transfer money for my registration fees. The teller, a kind woman named Mrs. Rodriguez, who had watched me make deposits for years, handed me my balance slip with a confused expression. "There must be some mistake," I said, staring at the paper. "This says $0. Mrs. Rodriguez checked her computer screen twice. "I am sorry, honey, but there was a withdrawal last week for the full amount. It was authorized by the other account holder. The other account holder, my mother. My hands started shaking as the reality hit me. 4 years of sacrifice. 4 years of missing out on teenage experiences. 4 years of dreaming about my future. All erased by someone who was supposed to protect me. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing with questions I was afraid to have answered. Maybe there was an emergency. Maybe someone was in the hospital. Maybe my mother had a good reason for taking money that represented years of my life. I found her in the living room, sitting cross-legged on the couch while painting her nails a bright coral color. The television was playing some reality show about housewives, and she was humming along to the theme music. She looked so normal, so relaxed that for a moment I wondered if I was having a nightmare. "Mom," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Where is my college money?" She did not look up from her nails. "Oh, that. I had to borrow it for emergencies." "What emergencies?" The question came out sharper than I intended. Finally, she glanced up at me, her expression shifting to defensive annoyance. Emma needed money for that summer art camp in Colorado, and we had already booked the family vacation to Disney World. I could not cancel everything just because money was tight. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline to a joke that never came. "That was my college money, Mom. I worked for 4 years to save that. I know, sweetie, and I will pay you back soon." But family comes first, and Emma really wanted to go to that camp with her friends. Family comes first. I was standing right there, part of the same family, but apparently my dreams did not matter as much as Emma's summer camp. The trip to Disney World had happened 3 weeks ago. I remembered staying home because I had to work double shifts at the ice cream shop. They brought me back a t-shirt with Mickey Mouse on it, like that somehow made up for being excluded from my own family vacation. "When will you pay me back?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. "Soon," she repeated, turning back to her nails. "Do not be so dramatic about this, Claudia. You can start college next semester instead of this fall." What is a few months' delay? A few months' delay. 4 years of sacrifice reduced to an inconvenience in her mind. I went upstairs to my room and cried until I had no tears left. Then I called State University and explained that I needed to defer my enrollment due to unexpected financial circumstances. The admissions counselor was sympathetic but matter-of-fact. "We can hold your spot for 1 semester, but you will need to reapply for financial aid and scholarships. There is no guarantee the same awards will be available." That night at dinner, the family acted like nothing had happened. Robert carved the roast beef while discussing his golf game. Emma chatted about her plans for senior year, excited about homecoming and college applications. My mother served mashed potatoes and asked if anyone wanted seconds. I sat there picking at my food, feeling invisible in my own home. When Emma mentioned visiting colleges in the fall, my mother enthusiastically offered to take time off work for campus tours. The same woman who had just destroyed my college plans was ready to dedicate weeks to helping my stepsister choose between her options. That weekend, I applied for a full-time position at Romano's restaurant downtown. The manager, a tough but fair man named Tony, hired me as a server after I proved I could handle the dinner rush without falling apart. The pay was better than my previous jobs, but it meant working 40-hour weeks while watching my friends head off to college. The next few months blurred together in a cycle of exhaustion and disappointment. I worked double shifts whenever possible, coming home with aching feet and pockets full of tips. My social life disappeared completely. Friends stopped inviting me places because I was always working. Some of them sent care packages from their dorm rooms filled with campus souvenirs and stories about college life I should have been living. At home, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. My mother avoided direct conversations with me, communicating through notes about dinner plans and household chores. Robert pretended nothing had changed, still making snide comments about my dramatic behavior whenever I looked upset. Emma seemed genuinely oblivious to what her art camp had cost me. She would bounce into the kitchen after school, talking about college applications and scholarship essays, while I sat at the table counting tips from my latest shift. Sometimes I caught her looking at me with confusion, like she could not understand why I seemed so distant. I moved into the basement bedroom to avoid family interactions. It was colder and darker than my old room, but it felt like my own space. I ate meals alone either before or after the family dinners I could no longer stomach. Holidays became exercises in polite conversation and forced smiles. By December, I had saved $3,000. It was progress, but nowhere near enough to start college in the spring. I applied for scholarships again, writing new essays about overcoming financial obstacles and working multiple jobs. Some applications required parent financial information, which meant awkward conversations with my mother about tax documents and income statements. "I am proud of how hard you are working," she said one evening, handing me the forms I needed. It was the closest thing to an acknowledgement of what she had done, but it felt hollow and inadequate. Spring semester came and went while I watched my former classmates post pictures from college parties and study groups. I had been accepted to the local community college for fall, with plans to transfer to state university after completing my general education requirements. It was not the path I had originally planned, but it was movement toward my goals. By summer, I had saved enough to pay for my first semester at community college. The campus was smaller and less exciting than State University, but my professors were dedicated and the class sizes meant more individual attention. I discovered I had a talent for economics and statistics that had never emerged in high school. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful about my future again. I was behind my original timeline, but I was making progress. Some of my community college credits would transfer to State University, and I had built relationships with professors who were willing to write recommendation letters. Then, exactly 1 year after my mother had cleared my savings account, I received an email that shattered my fragile sense of stability once again. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was getting ready for my macroeconomics class. The subject line read, "Emma's dorm payment needed," and it came from my mother's personal account. I almost deleted it without reading, assuming it was some kind of mistake or spam. But curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the message while eating breakfast in my tiny apartment kitchen. The words on the screen made me read them 3 times before their meaning sank in. "Claudia, I hope you are doing well in school. Emma has been accepted to Willowbrook Academy for her freshman year. It is a wonderful private university with an excellent arts program. The attached bill is for her dorm room for the academic year. We are stretched thin financially right now, and since you are working and earning good money, I was hoping you could help with this expense. The amount is $12,000, due by August 1st. Let me know what you can do. Love, Mom." $12,000. For 1 year of dormitory fees at a private university I had never heard of. I opened the attachment and saw an official invoice from Willowbrook Academy addressed to my mother and Robert. The cost breakdown included not just the dorm room, but meal plans, activity fees, and something called a residential life enhancement package that seemed to cover decorating supplies and social events. I sat there staring at my laptop screen, feeling the same numb shock I had experienced in the bank lobby a year earlier. My mother had stolen my college fund to pay for family luxuries, forced me to delay my education, and work exhausting jobs to rebuild my savings. And now she wanted me to fund my stepsister's college experience at a school that cost more than most people's annual salary. The audacity was breathtaking. While I was taking classes at community college and living in a 400-square-foot apartment with a leaky faucet, Emma was being handed a spot at an expensive private university. While I worked double shifts and ate ramen noodles for dinner, my family was planning to send Emma to a school with amenities that sounded more like a luxury resort than an educational institution. I thought about the art camp that had cost me my original college fund. Emma had spent 6 weeks in Colorado learning pottery and painting while staying in mountain cabins with gourmet meals provided daily. The pictures on her social media had shown hiking trips, campfires, and friendships with other privileged teenagers whose parents could afford such experiences. Now, She was getting a full ride to her dream school, funded by someone else's sacrifice once again. The rage that had been simmering in my chest for the past year finally boiled over. I had been patient, understanding, and forgiving for too long. I had accepted my mother's weak excuses and hollow promises of repayment. I had watched my family enjoy luxuries while I struggled to afford textbooks. But this was different. This was not just stealing from me. It was expecting me to become an active participant in my own exploitation. I closed the laptop and sat in my quiet apartment thinking about everything that had led to this moment. The years of working while my classmates played. The nights spent studying while exhausted from full-time work. The loneliness of being excluded from my own family's life because I could not afford their lifestyle. I thought about Emma, who had never worked a day in her life, getting handed opportunities that I had to fight and sacrifice for. I thought about my mother, who had raised me to believe that hard work and responsibility were virtues, then punished me for embodying those values. Most of all, I thought about the pattern that would continue if I did not put a stop to it now. If I paid for Emma's dorm, what would be next? Her textbooks, her spring break trip, her graduate school expenses I had spent so long trying to be the good daughter, the responsible one, the family member who could be counted on to sacrifice for everyone else's benefit. But being good had only made me an easy target for people who were willing to take advantage of my sense of obligation. That evening, I called in sick to work for the first time in my life. Instead of serving tables at Romano's, I spent hours researching legal options for recovering stolen money. Joint bank accounts complicated things legally, but I learned about small claims, court, and financial elder abuse laws. I printed out bank statements showing my deposits over 4 years, along with the single massive withdrawal that had emptied my account. I also started researching Willowbrook Academy. The website showcased beautiful campus facilities, small class sizes, and impressive graduate school acceptance rates. The tuition alone was $30,000 per year, not including room and board. Students came from wealthy families in Connecticut, California, and New York. The average family income of enrolled students was in the top 5% nationally. This was not a school for people like us. This was a school for people who belonged to country clubs and owned vacation homes. The fact that my family was even considering such an option showed how completely disconnected they were from financial reality. But what bothered me most was not the expense itself. It was the assumption that I would pay for it. After everything that had happened, my mother still saw me as a source of funding for her other daughter's dreams. I made a decision that night that would change everything. I was done being the family's financial safety net. I was done sacrificing my future for other people's luxuries. I was done being grateful for scraps while others feasted. The next morning, I typed a response to my mother's email. It was brief and to the point. I will not be paying for Emma's dorm room or any other college expenses. We need to discuss what happened to my college fund before I consider any financial assistance to this family. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Within an hour, my phone was ringing. My mother's voice was sharp with anger when I answered. Claudia, I cannot believe you would be so selfish about this. Emma has worked so hard to get into Willowbrook. This is her dream school. It was my dream to go to college too, I replied, keeping my voice steady. But my dreams got sacrificed for family emergencies, remember? That is completely different, and you know it. You are older now, you have a job you can handle helping out. I have a job because you stole my college fund. I am older because you forced me to delay my education. Everything about my current situation exists because of choices you made. She hung up on me. That weekend, I drove to the family house for what I knew would be a confrontational dinner. I had not been there in months, preferring to avoid the uncomfortable dynamics and pretend conversations. But this situation required face-to-face discussion. I arrived to find the family gathered around the dining room table, an elaborate spread of pot roast and vegetables laid out like a celebration. Emma was showing Robert and my mother brochures from Willowbrook pointing out the art studios and performance spaces she was excited to use. Claudia, Emma jumped up to hug me when I walked in. Did you see the pictures of my dorm? It has a private bathroom and a study alcove. I cannot wait to decorate it. I looked at this sweet, naive girl who had no idea that her dreams were built on someone else's destruction and felt a mixture of anger and pity. Emma was not the villain in this story, but she was not innocent either. She had grown up accepting luxury and opportunity as her birthright, never questioning why some people had to struggle while others had everything handed to them. We need to talk about college expenses, I said, taking my usual seat at the far end of the table. Robert immediately bristled. I thought your mother explained the situation. Emma needs help with her dorm fees. And I explained that I would not be providing that help. The silence that followed was thick with tension. My mother served herself vegetables with exaggerated care, avoiding eye contact. Emma looked confused, glancing between the adults for cues about what was happening. I do not understand, Emma said finally. Is there some kind of problem with money? That question opened the floodgates. For the first time in a year, I told Emma the complete story of what had happened to my college fund. I explained how I had worked 4 jobs during high school, how I had saved every dollar for years, how her art camp and the family vacation had been paid for with money I had earned. Emma's face went white as the truth sank in. Mom, is this true? Did you take Claudia's college money? My mother's defensive response revealed everything. I borrowed it temporarily for family needs. Claudia is making it sound much more dramatic than it actually was. Borrowed, I repeated. When exactly were you planning to pay me back? Because that was a year ago, and I have not seen a single dollar returned. Robert stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous. Families help each other out. That is how it works. You are right, I said, standing up as well. Families do help each other. But this family only helps Emma. When I needed support for my education, I was told to figure it out myself. When Emma needs support, suddenly, it is a family obligation. I pulled the printed email from my purse and placed it on the table next to Emma's college brochures. This is a bill for $12,000 that I am being asked to pay. For comparison, I currently pay $400 per month rent for my apartment, which means this single bill is equal to 2.5 years of my housing costs. Emma picked up the bill and stared at it with growing horror. Mom, you asked Claudia to pay for this. Emma needs opportunities, my mother said, but her voice lacked conviction. We cannot let her miss out on her dreams because of money. What about my dreams? I asked. What about the opportunities I missed because you decided my education was less important than family vacations and art camps? The room fell silent again. I looked around the table at these people who were supposed to be my family and realized I felt more like a stranger than a daughter. The emotional distance I had been feeling for months crystallized into a clear understanding of my place in their hierarchy. I am moving out permanently, I announced. I will not be paying for Emma's college expenses or anyone else's. If you want financial support from me in the future, we need to have a serious conversation about accountability and respect. I gathered my things and walked toward the door, leaving them sitting around their elaborate dinner in stunned silence. As I drove back to my apartment, I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time since my 18th birthday, I was in complete control of my own finances and future. No one could access my bank account without permission. No one could make financial decisions that would derail my plans. I was finally free from being the family's financial backup plan. The weeks following my departure from that disastrous family dinner were simultaneously the most difficult and liberating of my adult life. I had burned bridges that could not easily be rebuilt, but I had also freed myself from a dynamic that was slowly destroying my self-respect and financial security. My phone rang constantly for the first few days. My mother left voicemails ranging from angry accusations to tearful guilt trips. Robert sent text messages about family loyalty and ingratitude. Even Emma called, though her conversations were different from her parents' attempts at manipulation. "Claudia, I had no idea what they did to you," she said during our first real conversation since the dinner confrontation. "I feel terrible about the art camp and everything else." "Emma, this is not your fault," I told her honestly. "You were 15 years old when this started. You could not have known what was happening behind the scenes. But I could have asked more questions. I could have wondered why you were working so much while I got everything handed to me." That conversation marked the beginning of a different relationship with my stepsister. For the first time, she started questioning the family dynamics that had shaped our childhood. She asked why I'd always seemed stressed about money while she never had to worry about expenses. She wanted to understand the cost of her privileges and how they had affected other people. Meanwhile, my mother continued her campaign to make me feel guilty about refusing to fund Emma's college experience. She sent articles about the importance of family support and forwarded pictures from Emma's high school graduation that I had missed due to work. The message was always the same: I was being selfish and ungrateful after everything the family had done for me. But what exactly had the family done for me? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that every opportunity in my life had been earned through my own effort. My grades, my jobs, my college acceptance, my apartment, my independence, none of it had been handed to me. I had built my life through determination and sacrifice, not through family support. 3 months after the dinner confrontation, something unexpected happened. Robert lost his job at the manufacturing plant where he had worked for 8 years. The company was downsizing, and his position was eliminated along with 30 others. Suddenly, the family that had been living beyond their means found themselves facing a genuine financial crisis. The mortgage payments on their large house became a struggle. Emma's expensive college plans had to be reconsidered. Luxuries that had been taken for granted were no longer affordable. My mother called me on a Tuesday evening in November, her voice smaller and more vulnerable than I had heard in years. "Claudia, I know things have been difficult between us, but I wanted you to know that Robert lost his job. We are going through a really tough time right now." I listened to her explain their financial situation with a mixture of sympathy and vindication. This was what actual financial hardship looked like, not the manufactured emergencies that had justified raiding my college fund. "I am sorry to hear that," I said genuinely. "Losing a job is always stressful." There was a long pause before she continued. "I was wondering if you might be able to help us out with some expenses until Robert finds something new." The irony was almost too much to bear. After stealing my college fund and expecting me to pay for Emma's luxury education, she was now asking for financial assistance during their first real emergency. "Mom, I would consider helping if you acknowledge what you did and apologize," I said, repeating the same boundary I had set months earlier. Another long silence. Then finally, the words I had been waiting to hear for over a year. "I am sorry, Claudia. I should not have taken your college money without asking. I should not have prioritized Emma's wants over your needs. I made mistakes, and I hurt you badly." The apology was not perfect, but it was sincere. For the first time, my mother was taking responsibility for her actions rather than making excuses or shifting blame. "I appreciate you saying that," I told her. "It means a lot to finally hear you acknowledge what happened." Over the following weeks, we had several more conversations about the past and future. She explained that she had felt pressure to provide Emma with the same opportunities that wealthy families could afford without considering the costs to other family members. She admitted that she had taken my reliability and work ethic for granted, assuming I would always be able to handle whatever challenges came my way. "You were always so capable and independent," she said during one of our talks. "I think I forgot that you were still my daughter who needed support too." Emma, meanwhile, had made her own difficult decisions. After learning the truth about how her college fund had been assembled, she chose to attend the state university instead of Willowbrook Academy. She applied for a financial aid, took out student loans, and got a part-time job at the campus bookstore. "I want to earn my education the way you did," she told me. I do not want my success to come at someone else's expense anymore. My mother eventually paid back $4,000 of the original amount she had taken from my account. It was not the full sum, but it represented a genuine sacrifice during their period of financial struggle. More importantly, it demonstrated her commitment to making amends for past mistakes. Robert found a new job after 6 months of unemployment, though it paid less than his previous position. The family had to downsize their lifestyle significantly, moving to a smaller house and giving up many of the luxuries they had grown accustomed to. But the experience taught them valuable lessons about living within their means and prioritizing genuine needs over manufactured wants. As for me, I thrived in my new environment of complete independence. Without the stress of family financial drama, my grades at community college improved dramatically. I made the dean's list for 2 consecutive semesters and built strong relationships with professors who became mentors and advocates. Dr. Martinez, my economics professor, encouraged me to apply for transfer scholarships to 4-year universities. She helped me craft application essays that highlighted my work experience and determination without dwelling on family conflicts. Her recommendation letters emphasized my analytical skills and mature perspective on financial challenges. When acceptance letters arrived in the spring, I had multiple options to choose from. State University offered me a partial scholarship and the opportunity to complete my finance degree in 2 additional years. A private college in the neighboring state provided an even more generous financial aid package that would cover most of my remaining expenses. I chose State University partly for practical financial reasons, but mostly because it felt like completing the journey I had started 3 years earlier. I would finally get to experience the education I had dreamed about and worked toward since I was 14 years old. On my 24th birthday, I graduated with a bachelor's degree in finance and a job offer from a regional investment firm. The starting salary was more than I had ever imagined earning, and the benefits package included health insurance, retirement contributions, and professional development opportunities. My relationship with my family had evolved into something healthier and more honest. I maintained regular contact with my mother and Emma, but with clear boundaries about financial expectations and mutual respect. Robert and I were cordial but distant, which suited both of us fine. Emma and I had become genuinely close for the first time in our lives. She often asked for advice about budgeting, career planning, and navigating college challenges. Our conversations were based on mutual respect rather than the artificial family dynamics that had defined our childhood. I am proud of how hard you worked to build your life, she told me during my graduation celebration. You showed me what real strength looks like. My mother had learned to express pride in my accomplishments without trying to take credit for them. She acknowledged that my success was the result of my own determination and effort, not family support. I wish I had been a better mother to you during those early years, she said as we walked across campus after the ceremony. You deserved more encouragement and less pressure. Looking back on everything that had happened, I realized that the betrayal that had initially felt like the end of my dreams had actually been the beginning of my real education. I learned lessons about resilience, independence, and self-advocacy that no college course could have taught me. I learned that financial independence is emotional independence. When you control your own resources, you cannot be manipulated or exploited by people who claim to have your best interests at heart. I learned that family relationships should be based on mutual respect and support, not one-sided sacrifice and obligation. True love does not require you to give up your dreams for someone else's convenience. Most importantly, I learned that your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to respond to their treatment. You can forgive people who have hurt you without forgetting the lessons their behavior taught you. As I started my career and began building the stable, prosperous life I had always envisioned, I often thought about that 18-year-old girl who had walked into the bank to find her account empty. She had been devastated and lost, but she had also been stronger than she knew. Sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones who hurt you most. But sometimes, that betrayal forces you to develop strengths you never knew you possessed. Sometimes you have to create the family you deserve rather than accept the one you were born into. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who took advantage of your kindness? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more stories about overcoming family challenges. Share this with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to put your own dreams first sometimes. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your future belongs to you, not to people who see your success as their opportunity. Stay strong and never apologize for protecting your dreams.